there's this amazing pizza pop-up in SF called Jules Pizza. I'm sure you've heard of Jules, right? These guys are crushing it. They're going to open up a brick and mortar in like the next like couple months. And I went to their pop-up at La Croix Bakery here in town. And man, the line was like at the end of the block, it felt like there was so much demand. It took me an hour to get my pizza.
Oh my gosh.
These guys have like 4 uni ovens, and they're just like putting pizza in and out of an uni oven. But it's really good quality pizza, right? They don't need a pre-sell, right? That's just how they don't want to do it that way. And they're like totally fine, right? Now for me, if I were to do a pop-up, right? If I were to do the same exact thing, I don't know that I would have the same level of success as like a Jules Pizza, right? And I think it'd be just a much safer and better route for me to like set up a Hotplate site, get my friends to like share it with their friends, right? Kind of build the demand from there. I might post on a Facebook group or like next door nearby being like, hey, I'm like doing this pizza pop-up if anyone wants to support me, and kind of build my fan base that way. And that's just kind of the direction I want to take. And also I run a business, and I always do a pop-up as a side gig if I were to do one, right? And I don't know that I would ever want to go to the level of like opening a brick and mortar. I just think some people, want to make food for fun. They want to focus on the craft. They don't want to think about like the whole like getting a storefront. I have to run a storefront now, and like it's just a whole different game, right? Versus just making like a really good quality pizza, selling it online, and then people can come pick it up.
Right.
Like I think you're in South San Jose, right? And at first glance you might be like, oh man, like that's just so far from everyone. Like that's not feasible for me to do it. But I think that's thinking about the customer and like the needs of the customer, which is super valid, right? But the cool thing about Hotplate, and the thing that honestly was like a big mindset shift for me, was that it's actually about you, the chef. Like you can completely flip the dynamic around. Like if you're making good quality pizza, I've seen your Instagram. You make dope pizza. Like your pizza is awesome, right?
Thanks.
And if you have that following, you're just posting like, this is the breakdown of flour. This is everything. Like this is the pizza I'm making. And you have that fan base and you're like, I want to do a pop-up.
Come and get it.
Come and get it. You'd be so surprised.
Yeah.
Like it's bananas. Like people, and that's kind of the story that's been so unexpected is like, people build this following on Instagram just making food for fun.
Yeah.
And then they turn it on. And then they're just so surprised when they instantly sell out. And people are driving like an hour to pick up your pizza. Because it's not about the drive. It's not, at that point, it's not about the space. It's not about the convenience for me as a customer. It's about the fact that I'm a huge fan of you. And like, I've been following your page forever. And I'm here to support. And like, all of a sudden, like, you're selling the pizza. I can like get your pizza now. Like, that's dope. Like this A to Z Creamery guy I mentioned, people are driving 2 hours all across, like he's in Minnesota, in the middle of Minnesota. Like, you wouldn't think that like Minnesota would be like the end all be all destination for ice cream. It's cold as heck in Minnesota.
Cold as
but
balls.
People are cold as balls in Minnesota. Yeah, exactly, right? But people are driving like 2 hours from like DC and like all over the place to pick up this guy's ice cream. And that's the narrative shift we're trying to establish is like Mive in LA did pickups, and now he's at a Kit Kat like cafe, which is a little more accessible, right? And people can now walk up and get slices, but he's still pre-selling like a lot of pies, right? And that's because he has the online fan base. So I think like it is definitely a mindset shift. That word is it's definitely a mindset shift for people to think like, I need to start a food business that's really accessible to a lot of people. That's like as convenient as possible. Because if I don't do that, then what's going to happen, right? And I'm less concerned with like, what I'm more interested in is like, who are all the people that want to start a food business, that have this passion, who are afraid to like start or take the leap of that food business because of that same fear and that same mentality? And how can we make it easier for them to just get going, right? The goal of Hotplate is that you don't have to pay for a site. You don't have to worry about like, setting up a whole website. You can it takes 5 to 10 minutes to create an event, post it, start collecting those numbers, selling your pizza, right? And just starting to like get that like customer demand, because honestly, that is like the currency that you maximize as an entrepreneur when you're starting, is those people buying your food, telling you how amazing it was, giving you that feedback, and you're iterating on it. And you're like, wow, like this is actually something. Versus so many ideas just die in the shower, right?
Yeah. Pizza makers, if you're looking for a premium pizza cheese, Bacho cheese is the game changer you need. With a kiss of buffalo milk, Bacho delivers unbeatable melt and stretch for your perfect pizza every time. Plus, with a Bacho Gold Club Rewards program, you earn cash back for every pound of cheese you buy, up to 18 cents per pound. So the more cheese you use, the more you earn. So request a sample, use the link in the show notes, and make sure you tell them What's Good Dough sent you. One thing I like about this accessibility of starting a food business is like it's really hard to sell food on demand, especially if you're just getting your feet wet.
Oh my God.
Like my first ever pop-up, I was like, holy shit, what am I doing? I even had a pizza maker come who was like coming to support and buy.
Yeah.
Come around the table and offer to help.
Wow.
Yeah, because I was so behind.
Yeah.
And like I was like, oh my goodness, how are we gonna do this? I didn't factor in like who was gonna deliver the food. It was just like come and pay. All of these like different things that you just don't think about. But the pickup model, so predictable. And I think it just gives you a little bit more sanity.
Totally.
And here's another thing. Like I went to a pop-up recently. I saw this pizza maker. They had like 4 stacks of boxes. And like these are the big dough bins.
Yeah.
And I'm like looking at it and his pop-up's about to end in like an hour. He has 3 full bins left. Right? That's why I don't want to do pop-ups anymore. Because it's so unpredictable. Which is why my main gig right now is catering. Like I can
nice.
I can like predict how many people are gonna be there and know my food costs and all of that.
And you get paid up front.
And you get paid I get
you get paid like a part of it up front. Like
true, fair.
Some people do like the whole like 25% up front, right? You do the rest later. But like most of the time, especially if it's like a corporate gig, right? You're just getting paid. You're gonna get paid.
Yes.
You're not worried about like I'm going to show up with like 4. Dude, I see so many pop-ups, even at the farmer's market, where like you show up with like those like bins, right, of pizza dough, and you're walking home, you're wasting like hundreds of dollars of unsold inventory, right?
All of that plus your time.
Exactly.
It is quite annoying.
That's the other really cool thing, particularly too with like baking, which is so cool, is that, you know, a lot of bakers do like porch pickups. And the cool thing about that is that you can pre-sell your bread. You have the money up front, you make the bread, and then people just come and pick up from your house. You might be a mom who wants to take care of your kids. You might be someone who wants to like not have to stand outside in the heat at like a farmer's market for like 4 hours, right? And Hotplate gives you that flexibility to be able to just pre-sell. People show up. It's like a vibe. You just pick up from the porch. You get to interact with the maker. But they're not, again, spending their time putting up a whole thing at a farmer's market, taking it down. People don't factor in their time when they think about these things a lot of times, to your point. And the beauty of doing this out of your house is that it, again, removes a lot of those like costs associated with doing a pop-up.
Yeah, I mean, a brick and mortar space, commercial space, huge overhead, right?
Huge.
And if you can get a cottage bakery, or in Santa Clara County, we have a micro enterprise kitchen home operation.
Exactly.
So you can eliminate, or you can like kill 2 birds with 1 stone. Pay rent for where you live, and pay rent for
it's dope, right? It's so cool. And actually on the Mecos thing that you're talking about, we're actually getting registered to be approved as an IFSI, which is like an internet food service intermediary. So if you want to start a Mecos, if you want to start one of those like home kitchen operations, you can use Hotplate as your storefront to sell the food legally.
Nice. Why can't you do that just right now if you wanted
to? Right now, well, you got to get it as a vendor or as Hotplate?
As a, well, like, why do you have to sign up to be that when people?
Yeah, it's so funny. No, it's a great question because we were like looking through the rules because this is something that's actually getting approved in LA County starting November 1st. And we were looking at the rules, and in order to kind of sell food online, you have to use an IFSI, which is like an approved internet service that has like been registered with the state to do that. And it's really chill. Like we're filling out the app right now. And it's like, I think it's like $20 or something. I don't know, to get approved. So it's really not that bad.
Okay.
But for us, it's super exciting because it enables a lot of people who are starting these businesses legally out of their house to sell with Hotplate, right? And to use Hotplate as their storefront. And that's just been like a really cool process and journey itself.
Do you think since the pandemic happened, like, I mean, like the Miko thing has been around for a while, but like it's only been it was California approved it, but then it was up to the county to implement, and it took them a while. Yeah. Right. But I think, you know, do you think the trend is that it's going to be more, I don't know, more feasible for people to get their start at their house?
I 100% think so. Because honestly, and you brought up the pandemic, and like that's honestly what's been such a catalyst for not just Hotplate, but all these like food businesses you see on Instagram, all these pop-ups, right? Because, COVID really, I think, exposed some of the constraints with the brick and mortar model, right? Like you're really dependent on that foot traffic, you're really dependent on demand. And if you haven't built up the demand online and then something like COVID happens, you're out tens of thousands of dollars a month in rent and labor, right?
Scary.
It's tough. And
Yeah.
a lot of food businesses I think went under because of that. And Hotplate, I think, kind of came as a result of all these businesses selling on Instagram. We were talking to a lot of them and they were like, yeah, like this pop-up thing is dope because I can just like sell it direct to consumer, but I have to like take orders via DM and I have to do payments via Venmo. And like, I have to like text my customers the reminders and I have to go through a spreadsheet. And I was like, there's got to be a better way, like there's definitely got to, like, this is absurd, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that we honestly started Hotplate originally as a home cooked food marketplace. Like the first version of Hotplate was a way for my mom to get like home cooked Indian food. Like I'm Gujarati, and most Indian food that you eat is like Punjabi, right? And Hotplate started as a way for you to be able to get that like Gujarati Indian food that like you wouldn't normally be able to eat if you go to like a normal like Punjabi restaurant, right? Like I'm talking like roti, I'm talking like pickled vegetables, right? I love chicken tikka masala, but I'm sorry if I hear you know what I'm talking about? If I hear the words like chicken tikka masala one more time, man, I'm telling you.
So what is can you say the name of the?
Yeah. So it's like dal, bath, which is like rice,
Okay.
shak, which is like just pickled veggies with like spices, like turmeric and
Sure.
all these amazing stuff. Marchu with like the red. You definitely had like marchu, which is like red, like powder. It's like a red powder. They put it on Indian food. It makes it spicy, like got to go to the bathroom later and like beg for your life. And then like just roti. And, you don't normally eat. I mean, if you know my asking, when's the last time you had like roti at like Indian restaurant, right? You've had naan, I'm sure, right?
Yeah. Usually when I have roti, it's from a Thai place or I went to a Himalayan spot.
Yeah.
The other day and they had it. So
no, totally. And like the history of like the Indian, like Thai, like how that all happened is really cool. That's kind of an amazing, like separate history, like nerd thing to go on. But honestly, yeah, like
starting up for your mom.
Yeah. Starting for my mom, and all credit to mom for making this happen, And, we started as a home cooked food marketplace during COVID, and we wanted to test the concept of Hotplate. We wanted to see like, we gotta eat our own spinach, right? If we're gonna like tell people to like, yo, we got the software to like start, food, we gotta start a food business, right? So we actually opened a Thai restaurant we went to UT Austin, started Hotplate at UT, and so we just rented an apartment and opened a Thai restaurant
inside your apartment.
Inside our apartment on campus. Nice. And when because like the whole
what year was this?
This was 2020.
Okay.
And this was February. We rented the apartment February 2020.
Nice.
Opened the restaurant March of 2020, which was a tough time.
Oh, man.
Tough time.
At least you didn't sign a 10-year lease.
Dude, I actually had this thought. It was crazy when we were opening, we opened the restaurant. We have these like two bench chairs, kind of these bench tables that like the wooden ones that people could come sit on in this apartment. And people would just come. It was like a sit down restaurant. Like you could come sit down, eat your food. We was really like not scalable too. We were taking the orders via DM by hand. Right. And honestly, ourselves saw like all these problems with running it and doing it manually.
Interesting.
But it's honestly a great way to start. Like I think when you're starting out, one big piece of advice I always tell people is like, you should do things kind of unscalably. Like a lot of people want to like go to the moon immediately. Right. But I think by doing it and kind of having it pulled out of us, like, taking the orders via DM.
One customer at a time.
We were able to build the demand and actually validate like, do people want to eat Thai food out of an apartment?
Right.
And
I mean, if you scale too fast, you miss out on having those one-on-one conversations. That
exactly.
Give you like tremendous insight about like.
No, 100%. And one amazing piece of advice too that I've heard from some of our investors and mentors is like, it's better to have a product that 10 people love than a product that 100 people like. Because if 10 people can love it, you can get 100 people to love it. But if 100 or 1,000 people sort of like it, it's really hard to then take that, right? Like at the end of the day, customer love is how you grow, and it's really all you need to keep a business going. I think so many businesses fail because not only do people not like need what they're making, they don't love the product, right? And I think like that when I've seen what like the common factor is between all the businesses that are successful on Hotplate. Yeah, they have 800 subscribers. They sell it really quickly. That's all a byproduct of like years of investment in a product that people really love, right? And Christie's is a great example, right? Like he made his pizza from his apartment, 40 pizzas. Why only that? Because his heating method, his like everything down to like the cheese and the dough he used, like it's all about quality and making everyone should have the best possible pie that you can find in New York, which is crazy because New York pizza is like the most competitive pizza market on
100%.
earth, right? So for people to be like, this is the best pizza I've had in New York City is insane. And as he scaled, he's been able to, go to the pop-up to permanent route, but still make a product that people love. And I think at the end of the day, like that's all that really matters. And so for us, we were trying to validate, like, do people want Thai food, in a restaurant? And we did a few orders and then COVID happened. And I remember sitting down and just being like, man, if we're feeling like this about this $2,000 a month apartment that we rented, how are people feeling about these leases, these like big 10-year leases that are just like, they can't do anything with.
Yeah. You're in charge. You are screwed.
You are
if you don't sell.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And people couldn't sell for the longest time. And so I think that kind of exposed the need for a new way of starting a food business. Like, I think that one thing that I'm really proud of is that a lot of the people who have chosen the brick and mortar route that use Hotplate are now at that point with a community of customers that love their product and that have like a rabid following, right? And I'd rather you go that route with a community of people than with a product and with a brand that's not tested, right? Not battle tested against the community, right? Now, I think for us, the goal that we noticed was that doing a pop-up, like the margins are just so much better. So for us, I think we're thinking a lot about like, how can we show people by making it easier and easier over time to do a pop-up, not just like automating the parts of it, like the DMs and like the order. It's like, we've already done a lot of that stuff, right? But I think we're trying to think through, as we continue to scale, how do we automate more and more parts of it that are hard, right?
Like what?
Like what do I post on Instagram? Like what do I like? How do I get? What kind of feedback should I be getting from my customers?
I see.
How should I be pricing my products? What space over time? It's like, what spaces should I even pop up at? To your point, right? Like, how would I find a space? How do I think about permitting? How do I should I even go the brick and mortar route? Like, what are my costs? Like, there's so many factors that go into running a food business that if we can automate and make those things easier, and also the biggest one, honestly, is like, how do we get demand, right? Like, if we can make it easy for anyone to solve those problems, start and not have to worry about those things, then I think more and more people are going to start food businesses. And the diversity and accessibility of food from the heart, I think, is going to be more prevalent in the world.
Well, earlier you said like, let's make it fun. Let's sort of make it into a game. Like, you could do like these like daily or weekly challenges of like posting on Instagram or reaching out to an old high school person. I mean, that's basically business building from the ground up, right?
Totally.
It's just making sure that you're out there getting your name out.
Right.
One of the things that we had discussed earlier about Jules Pizza, in your experience, was like, I went there and I waited in line, versus like you having reserved a pizza on Hotplate and just going on your pickup time. Like, why do you think operators prefer that method of just like, hey, I'm open from 5 to 9? What is the benefit versus like, hey, let's get people on a pre-order setup routine and like, let's run it that way?
It's a really good question. I mean, I think it really comes down again to your mindset about your business. When we started this, and I still do believe this to be true, I think chefs are a special breed. Like, I think chefs want to have creative control of their menu, which is true of like whether you're doing pre-orders or walk-ups or whatever. Like, regardless of business model, I think people are starting a pop-up want creative control. They want to innovate on the menu. They don't want to be at the whim of like working for someone who has their own ideas about the menu they want to make, right?
As a pizza maker, I'm a firm believer that a great product starts with great ingredients. And when it comes to olive oil, there's nothing better than Cordo olive oil. Made from California-grown olives picked at their peak, Cordo brings a fresh, vibrant taste that really enhances your dough, sauces, and the overall flavor of your pizza. That's why so many pizza pros choose Cordo. If you're ready to see what it's about, sign up for a free tasting today. Just click the link in the description. Your taste buds will thank you.
We have this user, Underground Creamery, Josh, who makes ice cream in Houston, very similar to Zach, where he started by just reviewing ice cream, like Jenny's and all these different pints of ice cream.
Nice.
And eventually was like, actually, I can make way better ice cream than all these guys, which I love, just the cojones, you know, like why you like try enough ice cream, you're like, you know what, I can do this better, which is kind of wild to me, because there's actually a decent amount of people on Hotplate that have a very similar story.
Yeah.
Like Super Witch in New Orleans, and like just like all these people that aren't chefs by trade who decided they just want to start an ice cream business. And it's kind of wild to me that they would make ice cream in like a Cuisinart, you know, just some like small ice cream machine.
Yeah. They're like, holy shit, this is pretty good.
This is really good. They would post like top-down photos of it, you know?
Yeah.
They'd give out samples to their community. And, you know, he just built up this following to where one day he was like, you know what, I think I'm going to sell this ice cream. And he used a Google form, which blows my mind, you know?
Yeah.
And that Google form got filled up in a minute.
That's tight.
Which is dope, right? But he, would do pop-ups, and he would go to farmers markets and stand in line. And people would stand in line for like an hour. You get to the very front, and there's no pizza left, right? For him, that's really disappointing.
That is disappointing.
You know, because he wants to just make good ice cream. He wants it to be as accessible to people as possible, and that's why he decided to do pre-orders. The owner of Jules is a chef, right? Like, comes from a restaurant background. That's his vision, right? He wants people to line up at the restaurant, order. I'm sure at some point he might potentially turn on online ordering. I don't know, obviously, or I can't speak. But he's like a master of his craft, and would rather people have it be more of like a community thing, right? And I think I see a world too where over time we're definitely gonna build features that extend to different ways of people like running their business, right? But I think for now we're really focused on drops because of folks like Josh at Underground Creamery. Like, his whole belief is that instead of having his customers wait in line for an hour and then nuke his comments on Instagram with terrible reviews, being like, I waited in line, it was sold out, terrible experience, he just drops in Hotplate. If you don't get it, you just waited on his storefront for like 5 minutes and it's sold out, and you can just go about your day. Right?
Yeah. And that goes back to the whole like creating hype and demand. It's like that limited inventory really is just like, okay, I didn't get it this time, I better go pay attention to when they post till next time.
Exactly. So it's a different game.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a different mindset. Mm-hmm. And I think when I started this, I was like, oh, chefs are going to be the ideal customer for Hotplate. Like how do we go from, like, right now our target customer is folks who already run a business, who have figured out this demand piece, right? And as I'm sure you're probably guessing and aware, like, that's definitely a growing market, but a very small market, right? Like, the community of people who've really nailed this game is small. And so as we're thinking about growth, we're not just thinking about like, how do we help people become successful, like Josh, like Chrissy's, right? But it's also like, how do we help people, like how do we kind of create the market in a way? Like, how do we get people who didn't even realize they could start a food business to start doing it, right? And the natural inclination for me is chefs. And I don't think that's going to change. Like, I definitely think there's a lot of chefs who will want to go this pop-up route, and some of them I think will want to do pre-orders for sure. And I think a decent amount of them will. But it's funny that I think a lot of chefs do want the walk up, like, I want people to stand in line, and like, if it sells out, it sells out. Because that's the experience that's the American dream.
Yeah. As
it stands. And I think for us, I think we're not trying to challenge that dream necessarily, but I think it's just like a different thing. I think that this model, I think, is way more accessible to a lot of people. And I think it democratizes the food business concept. Because again, not everyone can be like Max from Jules Pizza, right? Like not everyone has that ability to have like crowds out the door, right? And think about the risk if you're not him and you're not Jules.
You
and
just
you're
brought 100 dough balls for nothing.
For nothing, right? And that's the thing, that the risk is what we're trying to take away. Because that is the part of starting a food business, or a brick and mortar, of all this, that's so tough. And that's why brick and mortar food businesses have such a high failure rate. The margins are really low. The costs are exceptionally high. And even doing in-person pop-ups, that risk of like not selling out and then having all this unsold inventory, it just crushes your margins, right? It's just,
and your soul a little bit.
Oh, and your soul. Like, it's not motivating to keep going if you're like popping up and you don't sell out and you're like, okay, well, I'm broke now. Like, like that's insane, right?
That's back to back of 50 dough balls.
And so I think for us, like the thing that we're continuously surprised by with Hotplate, and we're still really early, right? Like we work with around 2,000 chefs and bakers across the country, which is dope. Like I remember when we started this and we were begging people to just use our platform like 4 years ago, you know, or even 3 years ago when we launched this version of it. And now we're at a point where we have folks that are using it. We definitely have that validation of like, this is solving a problem for people. But the thing I'm always still surprised by is people just don't get it. Like people continuously are like, wait, so like, what's a pop-up? Like, what is pre-ordering? Why am I pre-ordering it? Like Josh from Underground Creamery, why aren't you available at the storefront for my convenience, right? And I think that that's the thing that we're really working on. And that's the thing more than anything that we're trying to shape is, again, people's understanding of like what a food business can mean. Like, you know, there's certain types of businesses that I think very much are emblematic of like the Bear, you know, like you watch the Bear, right? Or you see like that chef who's just in the thing, just grinding, hoping that like there's a line out the door, you know, and it's just tense and it's stressful. And I think like, you know, it definitely, I think a mindset shift for people to see that, oh, like I can just pre-sell it, you know, and then I just get up and I make the bread and I make the pizza and then I just come and it's already sold and I just give it to people and like it's really chill. Like this is like so not what I was expecting, you know?
It's definitely a different take, but I think it's one that people shouldn't like dismiss for sure.
100%.
I think you're right about having to educate like the larger world at the whole to like say, hey, this isn't the traditional model, but it actually can work out for you and your schedule
Totally.
in these certain instances. I guess my question for you is like, there's a pizzeria, brick and mortar, who also sells by reservation. Is it like Peps or something like that?
Peps, 100%. Yeah. And so Peps is really funny because they're an incredible example of how even brick and mortars can adopt this mindset. I don't see it like a lot of people think of it as like a model, right? Oh, should I do my model this way or this way? I think of it as like a mindset, right? Like Peps only makes like so many pies a day. And they only can make so many pies a day because they're limited by capacity. And I think one of the incredible things that they've been able to use with Hotplate is they use our restriction functionality to set limits on how many pizzas they sell every 15 or 30 minutes, right? And once they sell those pizzas in that slot is gone. So you can't buy it for that slot. And even though they're a brick and mortar, they're really like changing the game of like how you think about a food business. They get so many comments all the time of like, yo, can you like scale up? Can you, you know, I want to just like walk up. And I think they're expanding gradually, you know, and allowing for like DoorDash and like other ways of selling, right? But I think the coolest thing is that they've really shown us that you can be a brick and mortar and still use Hotplate and still crush it with the game. The difference is you can do all that and still have the money up front. Like you could still have the inventory sold up front before you even come into the shop, right? And I think it's really shown them, because also, I mean, from their end too, like I think they're in Iowa, you know, and it's just one of those things where they don't have, I don't think like, I obviously can't speak, I don't think they're made of money, you know, I'm not made of money. Like I'm trying to run a food business. So like I'm kind of strapped for cash myself. And I think the beauty of what they're doing is they're running a profitable food business every single day versus having to, again, you come to the shop and my business might shut down today because I didn't sell.
It's definitely less of a gamble,
Exactly.
right?
And I
It's a
think,
sure thing almost, because like you're spending so much time and money producing this beautiful product, and like if no one buys it, you just wasted so much. Like, yeah, and you have to be able to stay in business long enough for people to find out about your product.
right.
But like some people just get over leveraged
hmm
and think of they're gonna go and sell out all the time, and then they open their doors and like no one's buying.
Exactly.
And having this mindset here of just like, hey, let's pre-sell, let's be smart about it. Boom.
And it takes the risk away, you know? So I'm a big believer that you should basically sell within your means, right? And build over time. And I think the biggest thing for them and for so many vendors is that by doing this way, like selling food this way, they're able to focus on quality. And I think a lot of people that do these pre-orders and keep their inventory limited, they just want to make a really good pie, right? They don't want to have to worry about like the demand. They don't want to have to worry about all that stuff. They keep their inventory limited so they can focus on, if I have to make 40 pies or 50 pies, I want these to be the best pies. Because if I make a really good pie and someone buys it, they're going to post that on their Instagram story. I just picked up Peps. Oh my God. And then their friend is going to be like, what's Peps? Like, that's so cool, right? And that word of mouth virality just spreads so much faster online. Again, very different game, right? I'm sure, like, I think they're in Grimes, Iowa. And like, I'm sure there are folks that walk by that are like, this is dope, right? But I think at the end of the day, like, you have Domino's, you have like all these Papa John's, right? You have all these brands that you're competing against where you know, not just in the online game, but even in the in-person game, if you're walking by, right? And so I think that by differentiating yourself on quality and on pricing and on providing that like experience and like that hype, it allows you to stand out from these like big corporations who invested so much money and time into optimizing their experience. If you want a quick pizza, what do you think of? You think of Domino's, right? But I think that if you want a really good quality pizza, right, you might have to change your expectations a little bit of how do I get this pizza? Is it like super accessible? You know, I got to pre-order it a few days in advance. But the outcome of that is you're getting the best possible pizza that you can get. And I think this shift in mentality from like customer first and convenience to chef first and quality is, I think, what I'm really excited about with Hotplate, and not just with Hotplate, but like this model in general, right? Because there's so many people out there that I think have really solid culinary creativity, have a really solid passion for making food, like my mom or like my grandmother who've been making rotis for like 80 years. My grandmother is not going to start a restaurant ever, right? But I think as food businesses become more and more accessible, as these laws start to kind of open up the opportunity for people to sell food at their house or out of like a shared space, it's just going to open up the diversity and accessibility of the food we all eat. And I think that's what's so exciting to me.
I'm thinking of like my aunts who always like makes so like damn good food. And
Yeah.
I'm like, you should sell this. They're never going to open a restaurant.
No,
But they could totally open up a hot plate shop
exactly.
and just sell it. So I guess like, I think what I would love to see from Hotplate is definitely would help with the marketing in the future.
Totally.
Right? Because if I'm my aunt who has no customers,
No, 100%.
I would love it if you all could help her grab like her first 5 customers and be like, yo, this is my stuff, buy it.
And I think that's something we're thinking a lot about now, right? I think we started as this tool, kind of like Shopify or Square, to help people sell food online in this way.
Yeah.
And now I think as we're scaling and growing and we're thinking about how do we make this more accessible to people like your aunt, like my mom and stuff, right? And how do we go from these kind of like hype beasts, like, you know, like A to Z Creamery or like Chrissy's, who like just like opened up an Instagram account, shared their craft, and then just blew up, right? Like it. I don't think my mom, I don't know if my mom can do it. My mom doesn't know the first thing about Instagram, right? And so I think we're thinking about it more as like, how do we go from being like a tool that supports 2,000 unique chefs and bakers and pizza makers to how do we become a network? And how do we become like an ecosystem where all these people can interact with each other? How maybe eventually you can maybe discover vendors, right? A Hotplate, right? In a way that's like, you know, safe and obviously, it complies and stuff. So
I would say you do speak to, in terms of like who's on the other side buying the food, you do speak to a certain like demographic or type of person who is like excited to try new foods.
100%.
Like they might be looking at the hype foods, right? And it's just like, okay, how do I get that? It's through Hotplate.
Exactly.
So I don't know.
So definitely, we're keeping our ears open to everything,
sure.
right? But I think more than anything, my biggest thing is, are we solving a problem for a group of people? And does that group of people love the solution?
Yeah.
And I think no matter what we do, even as we scale, I just wouldn't want it to ever make a product that your aunt didn't come on and love and have a good experience, right? So I think as we go on the innovation adoption curve from these like early adopters who are people who've already taken the leap, they started a pop-up, they did these drops, they're making like some of them like the A to Z's and the underground creameries or whoever, they're making bank, right? Doing this model. How do we go from those people to the people who like are like my aunt or your aunt or my mom who wouldn't even think to start a food business, but Hotplate, again, gave all the tools to automate all the boring parts, help them find a space or help them with the permitting, right? Help them get their customers such that they can kind of just turn it on, sell the food, have people come by.
Focus on what they want to do.
Exactly. And I think that's what, as we scale from this market to that larger group of people, which I think is anyone. That's actually one other thing that I was really excited about. I thought chefs were the only type of people that would ever start a food business. Chefs are like immigrants, like hardworking immigrants. But I actually think a lot of people want to do food businesses. They're just really creative and they just want to do it in different ways. Like some of my friends, like Ranga, one of our engineers, he was a pop-up chef for a while. And he was just doing pop-ups by just doing dinner parties, right? And that's the type of pop-up food business that I would never think to like do until I hear that. And I'm like, dinner parties sound awesome. Like the first few Hotplate like pop-ups we ever did were dinner parties, right? To go from that to now where we're powering food businesses is cool because I'm not seeing a future where like we could support all these different types of food businesses, right? And there's so many different types of people with all these ideas that can use the tools that we provide to, again, just like unlock that culinary creativity. And that's what's so exciting to me. It's like when you take away the constraints and you focus on the creativity, like what can a food business really look like, right? And I think, again, it's just like something that we're only just beginning to see what that world looks like.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
As we start to wrap up here, one of the things that, I like to do when I'm listening to podcasts is like draw parallels, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're a business, you're a startup. And at the end of the day, I think people who are just getting their start in food are also a business and also a startup, right? And you've been doing this startup for 4 years. I'm sure there are people who are listening who've also been doing it at a similar time.
Yeah.
What are one of the key lessons or key moments for you that you want to share to another person who's doing the startup dance?
I love that question. It's so funny. Like when I was doing this, I spent so much time. I mean, all my buddies and I come from this like tech background, right? And I think I told you before we were rolling, I worked at a food delivery company for a little bit. And I just like spent so much time on like the product side of things. And then when you make contact with reality, you realize that it's really all about people, right? And I think that why people start businesses a lot of times is to serve people, to help people, right? To solve problems for people. And I think making it all about the people is something that feels obvious, but is actually very underrated, right? You want to, a lot of times, just make a product, put it out there, and then it's like, all right, I'm done. Like we're gonna be we're go to the moon, right? But I think a lot of it is about the iteration process of making contact with reality, getting people to try your product, getting that feedback, iterating on it. It's not like it doesn't feel sometimes like the most sexy process, but it's huge and it's very much key to, again, all the folks that we work with. They didn't just get like 800 subscribers overnight, right? It was like a process of like putting something out there, getting feedback and iterating until it was something new, something unique that the world really hadn't seen before. And so I think that's something that I always tell people, that you want to make sure to enjoy the journey of the iterations because it's a long game. When we started this, we were a marketplace for like Indian food and now we're like a drop platform for like all types of like bakers and like hype beast ice cream and like the best pizza. And like, I did not expect we'd be here 4 years ago, you know? But I think being open to that customer feedback and iterating is so important. And then 2 lessons, I mentioned them already, but I'm going to say them one more time because I always tell people this. 2 incredible lessons I learned from my advisors are: you want to start by doing things that don't scale. It is so tempting in the beginning to do scalable things, but it's actually incredible because everyone wants to be this big business. But I think when you're small, you actually have this amazing opportunity to talk to every single person that tries your product and to focus on the people that really love it, figure out why they love it, and then just double down on that love. And I think that if you do that, you're going to make something amazing, right? Like success can mean so many different things to so many people. But I think for me, that is, again, the currency that I maximize and that a lot of people do maximize, is that feeling when you make a pizza, you give it to someone, they eat that first bite and they're like, mwah, you know,
I love
like
that.
Exactly, right? And then the last thing is focusing on the customer love. Like I really, like when we started Hotplate, we made a product unscalably for like, okay, honestly, I'll tell you what happened was like we did this marketplace, it wasn't working. And so we went back to the drawing board and we were like, okay, let's actually try to solve a problem here, right? So we went and we interviewed 300 chefs, bakers, pizza makers, and we were like, what does your workflow look like today? And a lot of them were telling us about like, you know, they were even using Square or like other platforms, and you have to like export all of your orders once you get them, pre-orders, as a spreadsheet, and like count up like how many of like the sausage and how many of the pepperoni did I make. And so we built this whole platform with this like feature that just gives you a prep list, so you know exactly what you need to make. And we also built the ordering and all this other stuff. And then we put it in the wild and no one used it. Like we spent like 3 to 6 months building this platform and no one used it. And
It's
we were like,
someone
what?
building up their recipe for 3 to 6 months, doing testing, and then you put it out there.
And it's just like nothing, right? And then we were like, why is no one using it? They told us this is a problem. And then we realized like, okay, what was the actual problem they told us? Was like, I need to export my orders as a spreadsheet and tally them up, right? So we were like, okay, do things that don't scale. What if we could just solve that problem for them unscalably? So what we did is we took that prep list feature that we had and we turned it into a CSV importer. So like chefs would email us their spreadsheets and we would upload it into that feature and just give them the counts for free. Like we would just like, here's your account with all of the stuff tallied up. And once we solved that one problem for them, that then led to them being like, oh, you know, this other problem I have is this and this other problem. And then they started pulling the order. And luckily we already had the ordering stuff built, right? Because we spent 6 months doing it. But had we not done that work of like getting it out there, realizing that, and then doing the unscalable thing of like going and just doing that manual thing for them, we went to build a trust. And once you have that trust, you can start solving other problems for people, right? So I think that it kind of, again, just comes back to like in the beginning, you want to get 10 people to love what you're doing. And once you have that, you can get 100 people to love it and 1,000. And really the sky is the limit. And focusing on that customer love is so important. And I think something that just really is what makes like the businesses that succeed. And what makes, just what makes you stand out.
That's amazing. Final question for you.
Please.
You have been so gracious with your time and very insightful.
You too, man. I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. No right or wrong answer. What's good dough?
Honestly, San Francisco is pretty good. The food here is amazing. I love garlic noodles, a chubby noodle from time to time. You know, those are pretty good. I got hated on because someone was like, "Oh, it's a brunch spot," and I'm like, "No, dude, they just make good noodles." Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But I love if you're in San Jose, there's this amazing vendor called Macaron de Jane, and she does these macarons that are.
I think she went to my high school.
Fire! Oh no! Wow, what a small world. That's crazy, right? I would definitely. What's good though is Bad Walters ice cream shop in Oakland just opened up.
That sounds like
but Sydney was like our 10th vendor on Hotplate, was doing drops for years, and is just such a beast. Her ice cream shop has lines around the block. She makes lactose-free ice cream, unbelievable. if you're in SF, I would definitely check out like Estranda Bakery. This guy Eric does these like amazing cinnamon rolls. He also does. He's about to start doing like burgers.
Cinnamon rolls and burgers. Damn.
Unbelievable. Recommend Butter and Crumble. Very popular one in North Beach. Sophie at Butter and Crumble opened this bakery. Was doing pre-orders, doing the whole game. Now she has lines consistently around the block. She just renovated her bakery to increase her capacity. Still is going to sell. I'm guaranteeing it's going to sell out like no one's business. And just a plug, if you want to skip the line and pre-order, you can go to her link in bio, try to get it. Usually sells out within 3 minutes.
Wow.
So be prepared to wait in line, you know? And yeah, honestly, like SF food, amazing. I really miss Austin. Like I said, we went to UT Austin, and the food in Austin is unbelievable. Shout out to Veracruz Tacos for making migas. Best migas tacos. Dude, if you're in Austin, I'll send you a list.
Okay.
It is straight up the best migas you'll ever have. And honestly, just all the food in Austin is fire. I plan on going back to Austin, trying all the food I used to eat. There's this one street called Weberville, and I used to live before we moved here, I used to live on the end of it. And it has like literally all my, like, it's my favorite street in America. It has all like the best food, and my favorite coffee vendors there. For a while, there was like this bar that was there that had like amazing sandwiches, amazing tacos. Veracruz is a food truck over there, and just great vibes. So yeah, what's good is SF and Austin food, man.
That's what's up.
I'm a big foodie.
I can see that. I see that. All right. Well, thank you for being on.
Thank you so much for your time, brother. I really appreciate it. I'm excited to try your pizza.
One day.
We gotta get you set up.
We'll drop it on Hotplate.
Yes, sir. Yes, I love to hear that. And no, man, today it's day one. I hate to hear that from so many people, but I really do believe it's day one. I'm super grateful to be doing this, and also just super grateful to my amazing team. Could not do this without Ben, Tanaya, Sarah, Ranga. We got some amazing engineers that just joined, and I think we're ready to shake things up a little bit. I think the food industry has been really
I love that.
convenience focused for so long, and we're trying to make it chef first.
Yeah, not everyone has to be a Chick-fil-A, a Burger King, a McDonald's, right?
Exactly.
Like those will still be there.
Exactly.
If you want food real quick, it'll be there.
Brick and mortars are not going away. It's been the way we eat food for like thousands of years.
Right. But the people who are shaking up things like, I don't know, Chrissy's or Jules, who like do these like very limited menus, super special.
Exactly.
Like I'm excited for that.
I'm excited too.
And I want to see more of it.
Exactly. And I think like people make food, and food should be by people and about people.
Yeah.
And I think as long as we get there, the journey to get there is going to be interesting. And I'm excited to be along for the ride. This is truly such a blessing.
I can't wait to see it, man.
Have a good one.
Thank you again.
Oh.